Everybody, I wanted to give an update on my crochet project I'm working on. This Autumn Delight cardigan with the kind of lace panel in the center back. Okay, I've made some good progress on this. I got started over the weekend with the preliminary work. First, what I did over the weekend, I rolled all my skeins of yarn into balls. I had 20 skeins of yarn and I rolled them all into balls. And the reason why I do that is twofold. One, I don't like dealing with knots while I'm working. So if I come across a knot or a flaw in the yarn, I can address it and cut the knot or flaw out and splice the yarn back together, so I don't have to deal with it when I'm working. I don't have to be working in the zone. I like to get in the zone when I'm crocheting, and if I come across a flaw or a knot, it just throws me off my rhythm. So I do this so that I don't have to deal with it later. And also, these self-striping yarns that have the really long color runs, when I come to the end of one skein, I like to match the color with the beginning of the next skein so it's a smooth transition and not a really abrupt color change. I think it just looks a little bit better to do it that way. If the yarn itself has smooth transitions, which this one does, sometimes they really change, really blocky, and I just try to keep that to a minimum. I know it's not going to be something simply because a round starts and stops at the different colors, but still, I just like to have it to where it's not so many blocky pieced together colors. So I got that done. And then I did my gauge swatch. Well, the pattern calls for a 3.5 millimeter hook. So I used my 3.5 millimeter hook and made a gauge swatch, and it isn't this one. It was too big and it was really loose and sloppy. So the only other crochet hook I had that was smaller was the 2.75, and I went ahead and did a gauge swatch with it, which is the one I have here, and it turned out only a half a centimeter too small. So, I mean, once it's blocked and relaxed, it's definitely going to be the right size. It's nice, tight crocheting. It's a little bit curly and tight, but it's a cardigan. I don't want it too loose, and again, it's going to be blocked, so that's going to loosen it up and smooth it out some. So I like to use, let's see if I can get it to focus, these wood hooks. Before I drop my hook, I like to use these wood hooks. I couldn't find one of these wood hooks in a 3.0 millimeter, so I went ahead and just went with the 2.75 because they had this one in a 2.75, and that's a small hook for me. That's the smallest hook I've worked with so far. But I like these wood hooks because I have big hands, and as you can see, I hold my hook down here in the metal, and I've got this little bit of wood poking out from the handle, and it doesn't chafe the meaty part of my hand or give me a blister. The little plain metal and plastic hooks tend to rub me raw at the edge of my hand when I work on a long project. But that was all the preliminary work. So I got my gauge swatch, I got the proper hook, I was ready to go. So Monday I started, and it's now Wednesday lunchtime. So Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning, I've gotten this much done. And this is that center lace panel, and I'll show you where it's at on the picture and on the chart. So I got this done. It looks a little cattywampus in the middle, a little bit off kilter in the corners, but it is going to be blocked, and I'm going to block it pretty aggressively. I'm going to wet block it and pin all the corners out so that I can bring it into square so that all the little corners are true. I've seen some finished products of this cardigan, and the back panels on several of them looked cattywampus, and I thought, I don't know how mine's going to turn out. It looks like it can be solved with a good aggressive wet blocking. So the way you work this, you make the center panel from basically armhole to armhole across the back. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and block it before I move on to the next step. That way I know that my corners are all trued up and squared up and everything. So this is that middle part, and I'm going to show you where I'm at. So let me get this out of the way. My work bag. Okay. I've done this. This is what I just showed you. So From now on, here on out, it's these 2 rows repeated until it's the width across my upper back. So I'm at the part, this right here was the difficult part. This right here was a little bit difficult. Once I got to, focus. Once I got to this 3rd row down is easy peasy. So from here on out, it's easy peasy. It's gonna be like a granny square almost. I'm gonna have a little bit of difficulty as it gets bigger because we do a few more of these lace rows to add interest, but I've already done 2 of them, so I know what I'm doing. And I wouldn't say it is a beginner pattern, but if you're an intermediate, this is definitely within intermediate level. So here's where we're at. Okay, I am here on this white row that goes up into this blue row, so I am here. And then, like I said, from here on out, you just continue till it reaches where your armhole is supposed to be, and then you continue working your pattern. And it's going to have another lace row, and then it's going to keep working. Let's see if I can bring a smaller picture. Okay. And then it's going to have another lace row. Focus. Focus. There we go. Another lace row. And since I have to make it so much longer for me, I'm probably going to end up having another lace row, and then at the end, I'm going to make a lace trim. And I'm also going to have to make it a little bigger. So I'm just going to figure it out the best I can. I've decided I'm going to put a lace trim around the edge, and I'm going to put a lace trim around the wrists. But I am only to here. So I've got a lot of work left to do. But once I get to here, I'm gonna block that sucker up real good, and then once I get the body part done, I'm gonna block it really good, and then I'm gonna do the sleeves. I don't think the sleeves are really gonna need a blocking because they're just a very simple pattern. They're just those 2 rows repeated over and over again and then decreased like every 5 or 6 rows. It looks a lot more difficult than it is. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't a beginner pattern, and I don't think I would have been able to do this had I not worked the virus shawl that has a chart. I learned how to use a chart with the virus shawl. I recommend if you want to get beyond doing a basic granny square, you learn how to read a chart, because the written instructions were very confusing at points because this pattern was translated into English. And then also is very detailed, so a lot of it, like in here, got very confusing. I would have to look at the chart, look at the written, and look at the photograph of the finished product to all get it to come together in my head. And then even at one point, like up in here, I think it was this row with all the dots, I had to have my husband read off the written instructions while I looked at the chart and looked at my work to be able to figure out what I was supposed to do. But that's my progress, is the Drops Autumn Delight. So far, so good. It's a tiny bit confusing, but like I said, if you're an intermediate crocheter, you can figure it out. If you can read a chart, you can figure it out. So I'm just looking forward to working on it. Like I said, I'm at the easy peasy part now, and it's just crochet, crochet, crochet like a granny square. I will give you guys an update once I get the centerpiece done and get it blocked. So that's it for now. Bye.